during the 70s, there was a big back to land movement. And the reason we did it organically was it just seemed kind of the natural thing to do. I mean, you know, we were all sort of products in a certain way of Silent Spring. In other words, we had, you know, we're all conscious about what was going on in agriculture, at least from in that perspective. And I thought, you know, well, why not try it? Why? I mean, I don't know how to farm vegetables really. So, you know, if I'm going to have to learn, why don't I learn to? Can I learn to do it without using chemicals? I mean, even when I moved to California in '68 and '70, there were still a lot of small farms. I mean, when a crop becomes a commodity, then the farms that were doing that become big and the small farms drop out. I mean, cherry tomatoes, peas, berry crops, all kinds of crops. Those crops all changed over the years after the Second World War, became more industrialized in the 50s and 60s. The 60s was pretty much a complete, I think the cycle was completed there. In the 70s, when you were growing something and it was organic, and you took it to the store, I mean, they practically knock you over. It was so easy to sell whatever you were growing, basically. It was very, very easy, and the margins were very high. The conventional growers just sort of held back for years and years and years. I mean, through the 70s, through the 80s, through the early part of the 90s, mid-90s, kind of held back. And then at a point, I guess it was around 95, 6 or 7, they started realizing that there was a great market here and it was big enough for them to go into it. And that's when everything changed. Prices just tanked. They tanked. We were getting, for example, on spring mix, maybe we were getting $10, $11 a box, and our cost of production was, you know, probably $9. Also, the prices went down to $5. Now that most of the organic food that people are getting in the natural food supermarkets is being produced by a handful of grower shippers, the question becomes, well, what's going to happen? What's happening now for those small farms? We have to educate the consumer about freshness, organic practices, sustainable agriculture, family farms. Food is a very important part of culture. A lot of us have been sort of denied that importance by the industrialization of our food. So we walk around, we buy fast food, we buy packaged food, you know, we buy stuff and you take it and you open it up and then it goes bad in 2 days, but you got to use it right away because it's not fresh anymore. If you can keep farming sustainable, you know, it's a good thing for it's kind of almost like part of national security. I mean, it's like, you know, where's our food going to come from? What are we going to do? Are we going to allow our food to go the way of our tennis shoes? You know, is that all this is about? Is food just another commodity that it doesn't matter who produces or where it's produced? What we're trying to figure out is how we can farm in a way that reflects the need to have a balance and still succeed in farming to produce the food that people need. Otherwise, you're going to let industrial agriculture decide how it's done.